Thank you very much for that. Something else I'm wondering about, maybe the representative of the Defense Force may be able to assist. There was the issue of wearing of camouflage. Uh, in terms of even, let's say, at the same Army Fete, there were some photos, persons wearing in terms of not the actual uniforms of the Defense Force, but things that may look similar. Is that something of concern going through the carnival season, and how is that being addressed?
The issue of camouflage and the public wearing camouflage is an age-old one. The regulations state that the public is not supposed to wear anything that looks similar or is direct representation of the Defense Force uniform, and the Defense Force, Customs, the police continue to enforce the law in relation to this.
Let me very quickly add that it is the Defense Act and a couple other elements of the law that treats with the matter. So just for the benefit of the record, Section 219 of the Defense Act, to which the Colonel made reference, it says, and I might quote, permit me, a person other than a member of the Defense Force who without lawful excuse, the proof whereof shall lie with him, the burden of proof is on him, A, wears the uniform or any portion of the uniforms of a member of the Defense Force, so it means it has to be their uniform, or B, wears any costume or article of clothing or apparel so closely resembling the uniform or any portion thereof of a member of the Defense Force. So let me intersperse here again. It has to be part of their clothing or apparel, means that if a handbag is in camouflage, that's not clothing or apparel. You follow? And it must so closely resemble, which means if it appears in pink or yellow and brown, you follow me? Doesn't closely resemble. I continue. As may cause such person to be mistaken for a member of the Defense Force. So that if she turns up in a real thin shorts, in the camouflage color, and a white or a pink top, that doesn't exactly resemble the uniform of the Defense Force. And therefore it is in this regard that the Colonel says they will enforce the law. They make their own judgment and they take the time in from the facts in front of them before one decides, the police decide whether they would prosecute or not. And it continues, if such a person does those things, is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $1,000 or imprisonment for 18 months. Of course, mention is made of this kind of thing in the Summary Offences Act, Chapter 1102, and certainly in the Customs Act as well. There was a case recently in the court in 2021 touching and concerning this matter rather directly, the case of Isaiah Prince and the Attorney General, and where the claimant Isaiah Prince made certain claims and so on, and the court dealt in great detail with this. Suffice it to say that the court recognizes that the law which tells someone how they must dress is a restriction to some extent on their, to a large extent on their constitutional right. But the court understands that it is necessary sometimes to impose society itself on that right in the public interest. But it has laid out in the case, if one took time to read it, the very strict approaches that has to be taken. And the bottom line, as I understand it from following the judgment of the court, is that the thing has to, as I said, resemble. It has to be someone trying to pretend, or it might create confusion in the minds of a reasonable observer. But as I said, it excludes the question of pink camouflage print or yellow camouflage print, or the handbag, or the umbrella, and that kind of thing. And the court is well aware of it. It actually says in the judgment, the court is able, there's no complexity in the court understanding what camouflage means and how it ought to be applied in any particular case. Thank you very warmly.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you, sir, as well. Another
Fact check. FailGerald Hinds fails again. According to the Defense Act CH 1401 Section 219, it is an offense for any person who is not a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force to wear any uniform or part of a uniform or any article of clothing made from any material having the appearance or bearing any of the regimental or other distinctive marks of such uniform. Section 219 of the Defense Act states, a person, other than a member of the Defense Force, who without lawful excuse, the proof whereof shall lie on him, (a) wears the uniform or any portion of the uniforms of a member of the Defense Force, or b. wears any costume or any article of clothing or apparel so closely resembling the uniform or any portion thereof of a member of the Defense Force, as may cause such person to be mistaken for a member of the Defense Force, is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $1,000 and to imprisonment for 18 months. The importation of any camouflage pattern material into Trinidad and Tobago is also prohibited by Legal Notice 33 of 1984, unless the Minister of National Security certifies that the importation is for the use of the Defense Force. The Customs Act CH 78:01, Section 44, and Section 213, Copyright provide for the seizure and forfeiture of any prohibited goods imported into the country. The use of camouflage clothing by a non-member of the Defense Force falls under the Defense Act CH 1401 Section 219, and the Summary Offences Act CH 11.02 Section 98, 1, and 3. Section 62 of the Police Service Act deals with persons using uniform/gear of the TNT Police Service. Therefore, wearing any camouflage clothing in Trinidad and Tobago is against the law, unless it is authorized by the Minister of National Security or it does not resemble the uniform of the Defense Force. Once again, FailGerald Hinds misses the mark.